friends, it's Kathleen, and today we're going to be talking about YA recommendations for middle grade readers. One of the most common questions I get whenever I'm at work is from parents who are looking for books for their kids who are about 12 or 13 years old, and they want something that's a more higher reading level, but at the same time they don't want something that's too mature. And there's not really a lot out there. Most teen books have a pretty dramatic jump in maturity from middle grade, so it's often hard if you're a 12 or 13-year-old, maybe a bit older or younger, and you're struggling to find something that fits your reading level, but at the same time doesn't go beyond what you're necessarily wanting to read at that age. So I decided to compile this video. This is just a list of recommendations for people who are maybe on the cusp of becoming a teenager and you're looking for something more advanced but you don't want something too mature, parents who might be looking for a similar thing, or anybody who might know somebody who is at that point in their lives. This video is also for anybody who maybe likes to read something that just doesn't have tons of mature content. If you like YA but you're just somebody who doesn't love reading lots of sexual content or things like that, then this video is also for you. So without further ado, let's just get into the books. So the first book I have is one that is perfect if you are into contemporary and you love funny but heartwarming stories at the same time, and that book is Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella. This book follows a girl named Audrey who is 14 years old, and she left school after she was bullied for an incident that were never really clarified on what happened, but it traumatized her enough that she had to leave school, and she developed major social anxiety to the point where she can barely leave the house. She can't even go to Starbucks and order something without feeling like the world is attacking her. And it's such a wonderful book because if you've read Sophie Kinsella's older series, Confessions of a Shopaholic, then you know that she's a very funny writer, and this is all over that. It's hilarious and it has her trademark sense of humor, but at the same time it doesn't shy away from dealing with the more sensitive issues related to dealing with anxiety. It's such a realistic portrayal, and it's also such a realistic portrayal of anybody who has a chaotic family like myself, then this is just the perfect book for you. At the same time, it's also a great book because it has a really sweet romance, but the whole content of the book is not too mature. After all, she's a 14-year-old girl, she's just getting her first boyfriend, so it's really a tale of first love, and it's very, very cute and very adorable. There's not lots of swearing or anything like that in it, so I definitely think if you are younger and if you are into contemporary, this is the perfect book for you. But to be honest, if you are older and you just want like a light, fluffy, hilarious contemporary that also deals with some important issues, then this is also the perfect book for you. So the next book I have here is one that tends to vary whether it's classified as either middle grade or YA, but the bookstore I work at classifies it as YA, so we're going to go with that, and that is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is a beautiful lyrical book that I actually think everybody should read. It has nothing to do with ages, but it is a great book for if you want to read something with a more serious topic, but you're not somebody who wants to read something too mature. So basically, it's about this boy named Connor who every night starts seeing this monster appearing at his house. And he doesn't know why it's happening, but it comes to him and talks to him, and he says that it's going to tell him 3 stories every night, and at the end it's going to get the truth out of Connor. But you don't know what the truth is, and it's all building up to what his secret is and what the guilt is that he's been carrying around the whole book. It's such a beautiful story, and Patrick Ness is just such a wonderful writer. His writing is very poetic, but at the same time it's not too complicated or difficult. It doesn't make you feel like you have to stretch your mind to understand it, but it's still very intelligent. I think it's definitely a great option if you are somebody looking for a slightly more advanced middle grade book. I think this book has something to offer for pretty much every age group, and I think that's true for almost every book on this list, but this one definitely does. I think this affects pretty much everybody who reads it, or it has the capability to, and that's why I think it's so wonderful. It's also a really beautiful edition. If you get it, definitely get the illustrated version because it just has the most beautiful illustrations, which were done by Jim Kay, which is the same illustrator who did the Harry Potter illustrated versions, so definitely worth checking out. The audiobook I also found is narrated by Jason Isaacs, and I listened to the first beginning of it and it's so haunting. That would definitely be a great way as well to take in this story, but regardless, A Monster Calls is definitely a great book if you are transitioning from middle grade to YA books. Next book here is one I actually talk a lot about on my channel because I really like it, and I think this is such a fun series. It's so entertaining and it is absolutely perfect if you want something that's kind of a step up from Percy Jackson or different things like that, but isn't too mature. And that book is Cinder by Marissa Meyer, the first book in the Lunar Chronicles series. This is just a fantastic book. It follows this girl named Cinder who is a cyborg in a future world where they live in New Beijing, where cyborgs are discriminated against, and there is a queen on the moon who basically wants to infect Earth and take over the world, and there is a handsome prince who is trying hard to defend his kingdom. If you haven't figured it out, this is a retelling of Cinderella, but it's not a super hardcore retelling of Cinderella. It's so different, and honestly, the only way I could describe this book would be cool. It's so freaking cool. It's so fun to read. I absolutely had a blast reading this series when I read it last summer, and I read this when I was 19, so definitely don't think it's not appropriate for you if you're older. But the reason I recommend this to middle graders is because it's so much fun. It has lots of action, it's entertaining, there's romance, but it's not a series with too much mature content. There's not really any sexual content, there's not really any language issues. There's nothing that would make you think, oh, this isn't appropriate for a 13-year-old. So I always recommend this to younger readers, and actually I recommend it to everybody, but it's actually a harder sell, I find, with older readers because they're think it's too young for them. But no, this book is a great book for everybody, and it's also a good stepping stone to Marissa Meyer's other book, Heartless, which is really good as well, but is slightly more mature. So if you're younger, then this is a good one to start with. So the next book here is one that bounces around a lot, once again, whether it's really middle grade or YA, but that's The Giver by Lois Lowry. Ignore my slightly beat up copy. I got this at a used bookstore about a year ago. This book is about a boy named Jonas who lives in this world where everybody is the same. Babies are birthed by birth mothers, and then they're given to families that they select, and the parents don't actually fall in love. They're just put together to cohabitate and raise these children. No one really feels love. Everybody sees in black and white, and Jonas is selected to be the receiver of memories, meaning he has to go to this person called the Giver, and he's going to receive all the memories of the past and the real world that there was before this new world. And he starts to see that there's more to the world and that there could be a better life, and he starts to wonder if maybe the world he's been raised in isn't the world we're meant to be in. It's a really wonderful book. I read this when I was, I think, in grade 5, so it's definitely at that age level. You don't have to feel scared of approaching this one, but at the same time, it has some really dark themes. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's definitely a very dark premise that comes up later in the book that's pretty well known nowadays. It involves release, and you don't know what that is until the end of the book, but rest assured it's something that could actually really creep you out if you weren't prepared for it. It's also a really cool book because it's really a dystopian book for younger kids. In my opinion, it was kind of the dystopian book before the Hunger Games was a thing. I think it does such a good job at introducing younger kids to that genre and giving them an idea of what it's like. It doesn't shy away from the darkness that really comes with that genre, but at the same time, it doesn't go too graphic. It doesn't go too much into detail, so it's not a terrifying book or anything, but it is one that could definitely give you some chills, in my opinion. It's really well written. It's a really great book. It has that famous ambiguous ending that has spawned many a class book report. It's a really cool book. I definitely recommend checking it out if you are on that cusp of being between 12 and 13, that kind of age, maybe 11 to 13, and you're looking for something a little bit deeper. So then the final book I have here is one that is actually classified as middle grade, but I'm going to include it on this list for a couple of reasons. First of all, it spans several years in the main character's life. So the series starts off when she's 11, and then it goes up to when she's 14. So you are getting into that age where you're dealing with more mature themes, and this book doesn't really shy away from those. And that book is the Winnie Years by Lauren Myracle. This book follows Winnie Perry from the age of 10 to the ages of 13 plus 1, 14 actually. She starts out at 10 years old, and then this goes up to when she's 14, and it basically just follows her life as she goes on, and she gets into middle school, and she has to deal with losing friends, and she deals with getting her first boyfriend. I think this is such a great step up from the usual middle grade, because as Winnie gets older, she deals with all the issues that teens and YA books deal with. She deals with the fact that she doesn't know what to do about kissing her first boy, and she doesn't know if she should make out with him. She deals with kids accusing her best friend of shoplifting. She deals with kids who are rumored to be doing drugs and things like that and spreading rumors. And this book doesn't approach them in an all fluffy way. It's not super serious, it's just a normal girl's life from day to day. But for that reason, I think it's such a great book for people going from the middle grade books to then YA, because it's just a great transition book. And I personally think Winnie is such a wonderful character. I related to her so much. She was just so normal and likable. She wasn't super special and she didn't have any remarkable talents, but she definitely stands out as just a character that you can look at and think, oh, that's me. And even if you don't relate to Winnie, you'll probably relate to one of her other friends in this book. There are so many wonderful characters, and they're just all normal people, which I love. Lauren Myracle totally understands what it is to be a young teenager, or a tween, as some might say, and she just portrays that so well, and she never feels like she's being condescending. Winnie's voice is so real, it's so honest, and I absolutely love this series. I think it definitely deserves more recognition, and it's one of those books that I think you can read when you're still in junior high and in your early teens, and you don't feel like you're reading a middle grade book. So I really recommend this series for that reason. However, if you are a bit older, then you can absolutely start at book 12 or 13. You don't have to feel like you have to start at 11 or 10. They are good for understanding the story, but I think the first one I read was number 12 and I didn't feel lost, so definitely don't feel like you have to read the earlier ones if you feel like they're a bit young for you. So that concludes my list of books that I would recommend for middle grade readers who are just getting into YA or who are maybe at a more advanced reading level. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other such recommendations, please let me know in the comments. I love to learn about these things and to know more of what people think is good for that age level, because I know sometimes it's difficult to find things. Anyhow, I hope you guys at least slightly enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you did, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!